Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 19 of the action-packed Check the Wire podcast. I am DanGheesling alongside Ryan Northernlion Letourneau. Ryan, the streaming gaming world is some hot topics going on.
Yeah, it's been like, I don't know. It's been an insane 24 hours and an insane 72 hours. And it's funny, like on Friday, I took the day off. And I'm not going to say it was the right thing to do, but I feel like on Friday, I was like, I don't know what I would talk about today. And on Monday, I'm like, I don't know how we're going to fit all this in. This is insanity.
So I'm just coming off a live stream, and there was like some chirping going on in chat, but I knew we were going to do a podcast. But a lot of people are talking about Mixer, and I'm like, I have no idea what happened. Do you want to drop the live news wire?
Yeah. So, for context for people, I'm assuming you know what Mixer is, but it's a Microsoft-owned streaming service that was kind of positioned as like a Twitch competitor, and really made a lot of waves in the news last year when they signed some Twitch partners to exclusive deals. Like they signed Ninja, they signed Shroud. There were other streamers that I can't remember right now, but they had some controversy this weekend surrounding like one of their employees and misconduct and abuse, which was kind of the theme of what came out this weekend. And today, Mixer announced, I'm not sure if it's related or not, but announced that they were ceasing operations and instead we're going to merge essentially with Facebook Gaming. And it's really news that's still taking some time to sink in, because it really was probably like from a numbers perspective, people would be like, it's YouTube Gaming and Twitch at the top, and then like maybe Mixer and Facebook third, fourth, or fourth, third. But it was kind of seen as the number one competitor to Twitch, at least like culturally speaking. So the fact that they've just essentially bowed out is it's enormous news in the streaming space for sure.
And because I didn't read anything, but it says merging? Did it say they were acquired? Do you know the verbiage in it? I'll pull it up here too.
Yeah, so I do have the tweet. We've decided to close the operations side of Mixer. We're officially partnering with Facebook Gaming, and we're cordially inviting all of you to join.
So I'm not going to speculate, but I'm just going to use, they didn't get bought out. Like Facebook, maybe.
It's Microsoft. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like, that's an interesting thing. Because, all right, so now here a couple questions. What happens to the Mixer deals?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things to talk about and like spectrums to consider this from. One of them that is like mind-boggling to me, and this is hearsay from what I've seen from what I would consider to be reputable sources, but who knows? You know, this is not straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But what I heard is that people like, Ninja and Shroud, basically, Facebook got the right to negotiate for like first refusal, and if they opted out, Mixer just paid out the balance of the deal, and then they're free agents again who can go wherever they want. So it really is possible. If you'll forgive me for taking a serious issue and being kind of cheeky about it, some of these people basically got the bag to transfer to Mixer, probably had like multi-year deals of exclusivity, and instead, like 12 months later, got the full payout and are free to go back to Twitch.
So, I mean, it's like not double dipping, but as close to double dipping without actually double dipping because it wasn't in their control. But if we're talking implied economics,
I know pretty much the best deal of all time, I would say, is if that's what you're hinting at.
So the only thing I can speak of for factuality, and I'm sure you have some recollection of this, and I won't say any names, but I know some people who went to Facebook Gaming, and I know for a fact they were paid a monthly fee to just stream on Facebook. And the people that I know, their contracts just expired and they didn't re-up for whatever reason. So you wonder what happens now. So everyone comes back to Twitch, and maybe one signs with YouTube Gaming. What does your logic and objectivity tell you?
I guess what the first thing I'll say is that I think that, look, it's easy to dunk on for sure. Like Mixer was running maybe like number 4 or number 3 and distant to Twitch and to YouTube. But like, I really do. And I echo the sentiments that a lot of people have said, where I think that this is actually kind of a loss for creators The competition is usually good, and I think especially in a position like this where we're all essentially independent contractors, and all these companies are operating. I don't want to say like it's the Wild West because it's way better than it used to be, but they're kind of like feeling out the limits for themselves. So I actually loved the idea that Mixer was around, and if maybe you felt like Twitch was not doing so well for you, to be quite frank and transparent, Mixer might pay you like 5 times what you're worth in order to secure your services, which I think was a really cool thing from the creator standpoint. I mean, as a creator myself, I don't think there was ever a risk of me going to a different platform, probably, at least right now, because this is where my community is, and for the most part I have really good experiences with Twitch. But I think in general, the more competition there is in the landscape, the better. So I feel like it is a loss, honestly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that in terms of, but I think it's a loss at the same time. I like to look at it as, all right, on an objective level as possible. Microsoft took a huge gamble. They're like, hey, we're going to sign the biggest creators we can, pay them with the hopes that the audience comes along. And I think, I might have checked once or twice over the past year just for like informative purposes. I'd go to Mixer and be like, all right, what is Ninja doing there? And then comparatively speaking, say, all right, if he's getting 5,000 to 6,000, where would that place him on Twitch? But in my mind, and this is no judgment, I have no idea what the deal was, but the people that went to Mixer, yeah, they got paid. What did they lose? Did they lose 12 months of growth on a platform that is the platform? I don't know. But I don't know. I always looked at that and I'm like, man, these Mixer numbers aren't even on the top above the fold on Twitch.
It's true, but I don't know. I look at it kind of like when like NBA players go to like they play in China. Yeah, or they go to the Euro League or something like that. Or like another good example is like in the British Premier League, like players who have like huge name recognition and were like near the top, but maybe they're kind of, they don't know how long that's going to last. They might go play in China or like in the Middle East and get paid way more than they would. And it's easy to kind of be like, I wouldn't do that, but I also completely understand with the amount of money being offered, especially if you're worried about a career that might not necessarily be stable, or like, I won't put words in Ninja's mouth, but like, you get big off of Fortnite after being, a little bit more obscure for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. You're like, man, this is my opportunity to make sure that this is more permanent in terms of like my standing. So I think that I think it's tough to say, to be honest with you. I would need to know the actual like terms of the deal in order to give an honest opinion. But I will say that I think like I think you raise a good point about how difficult it is to make like a competitor to YouTube or Twitch or anything like this just by signing personalities, because the perception, people thought, if you look at tweets from a year ago when they signed Shroud or they signed Ninja, everybody was like, Mixer's coming for Twitch. And then at the end of the day, they kind of made like a little dent maybe in Twitch's viewership. But for whatever reason, these sites are, I think because of the fact they're already there, it's really, really hard to get traction and start to catch up to them.
So I want to play a game with you called False Reality in a second. But before that,
sure.
I'm kind of with you in the fact where like, if you're on Twitch now, like now they're like, I know, there's someone in the Tarkov community that just signed exclusively with Twitch, like probably a week ago. Twitch is probably not going to do that anymore. They're not going to be paying, I don't know if he got paid, but what's Twitch's incentive now to sign exclusive contracts? Now they only have to fight off YouTube gaming. That's it, right?
Agreed.
So like from I'm with you on the creator standpoint, it makes things, Twitch can now just be like, all right, hey, look, we won. We don't have to pay anyone exclusive rights now, which I think it makes it tough. But let me flip this. I want to play a game of False Reality. So let's say a year ago, Mixer comes to you with life-changing money, meaning that it's like life-changing, right? And it's disproportionate of what you make now. And you go there for a year and you're like, all right, maybe I sign a multi-year deal, but you don't know what's going to happen in the community. But it's not going to vanish. Do you take that deal?
Do you sign the deal to go to Mixer, or do you sign the deal to stay on with Facebook?
No, to go. So this is like day one when Mixer started doing this. Would you, if they came to you and said, hey, look, here's life-changing money, you got to be with us for 3 years. And let's just say you have insight that you know it's going to reduce your live audience by 50%. Maybe not your community, but live eyeballs. Not to put
I
it
would,
that way.
I'm not going to say no. Let me put it that way. But I would really have to think about it, because I think my appraisal of it on an honest level is that it's a short-term play for sure. I think you certainly, if they're like, hey, here's your salary for like a year, we're going to pay you 10 times that per year, and you have 3 years exclusivity, that would be really tough to say no to, for sure. Without making it seem too obvious, you would kind of have to be a little bit stupid not to at least look at it. Because I think that, when you're a personality and you have a community around you, a large percentage of that community will be there when you come back as well. Like if they don't follow you to Mixer, so what? In 3 years, when you come back to Twitch, they'll be like, okay, I'll give you a try again. Now, I will say there are platforms that I probably would not consider that just in case things change in the future, I'm not going to name. But in terms of streaming competitors, there are in my head, I have like a tier list of like backups, and there's some that are like way at the bottom. But
well, I don't want to pontificate or put words in your mouth, but
yeah.
if you signed a deal with YouTube Gaming, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
Because, you have a large audience there. There's not going to be I wouldn't be shocked by that. But I think now, with everything being washed out, there's now, 2 players in the game, and we'll see what happens with Facebook. The only thing that's interesting to me is that whatever Facebook does, like, it's rare that you see Facebook take a loss. Whatever they're involved in, buying Instagram, VR, whatever. So I don't know. It's interesting to see how hard they're going to push on this Facebook gaming stuff.
I've heard the same thing about Facebook gaming that you have, I'm sure, from other people, which is basically like, hey, dude, I don't want to get too mean about it, but like, yeah, my streams get like 8 viewers on Facebook Live, but they're paying me like 20 times what I was making normally. So it's kind of like, it's a super weird decision. But yeah, I don't know. I guess my wrap up message is like, I think that it's really, really, really hard to build a platform just by sniping an existing creator. And if anything, this is kind of like a case study. You had Microsoft, who obviously has been around for 40 years making software and hardware for that matter. And then they signed Ninja, who's probably the biggest, or maybe like one of the top 3 biggest on Twitch. They signed Shroud, who is obviously hugely up there as well. And they signed a few more people, and it's still like, it might have taken them from like, 0.1% to 1%, but it didn't give them the momentum they needed. So I really don't know how you compete with something. Like, people are always talking like, just when will someone make like a better YouTube? When will someone make a better Twitch? When will someone make a better yada yada? I don't honestly know how you do it with these websites that are already at critical mass.
Yeah, and I think like, unless you go like super like niche, like, I don't see how it's like you're trying to topple Netflix, right? Like they were the first to market. They've done a great job. They've varied their product. They've innovated. And then, let me ask this. Do you have Netflix?
Yeah.
Do you have any other services like Netflix?
I do, but I'm like in the thinnest minority of minorities on that. I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, obviously. I have cable. I have HBO. I've got Crave. We got Disney Plus. We got it all. I'm basically 100 years old.
Yeah, it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest example, but I just think when you're first to market and you build this moat around your business, where it's like Twitch went through the difficulty of explaining to people, hey, watch people play video games live. Like they're like Kleenex, right? They're like whatever name brand. They're like Google, right? You don't say, oh, let me go to a browser search. Let me Google it. And I feel like Twitch is like, to me, is like right there. And I I'm sure I'm biased because we're on Twitch, but I don't even be like, people aren't like, oh, I'm Mixer, let's mixer it up. I don't know what to say.
I do want to say, for all that we're saying, to be completely transparent, I've been open about it, like on stream and on this podcast before. I've had really good experience from like a partner support standpoint on Twitch. Like, I really don't have any complaints about any of the operations side of Twitch that I've dealt with. I just think that in general, having that competition there is a really positive thing. for creators. So I think I think it is a loss for the industry in general. And the other thing is, I think it has a super dampening effect because, like, who else is going to jump into the space after Microsoft got in and lost a whole boatload of cash and couldn't get any traction, right? Like, but is Tesla's going to step in or something like that? I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, we could be sitting here a year from now being like, and a new platform comes up, but I'm with you. I feel like you took a shot, so people took a shot at Twitch, and I feel like if it's, I don't want to call it just the two system, but I know there's some other ones out there, like there's a guy on 2K plays on like Caffeine or something. I know there's some other live streaming platforms, but in terms of gaming focus, I think my opinion is as long as there's another viable option, I think that's helpful. But if we get to the point where there's none, like, then I think it gets a little bit, super difficult. But at the same time, I don't know, man. Like, I'm with you. The way I look at, like, and this is just me and I know I'm biased, when people complain about Twitch, I'm like, look, it's a free live streaming platform you get to participate on. They don't charge you anything. The tech overhead is huge, and no company and no platform is perfect. But, like, pretty much do what they say they're going to do. And I know, and I think, and I don't want to sit here and like be on one side of the argument or other, because that's not the point. But like because Twitch is at the forefront, they're dealing with issues that no one's had to deal with before. Like, no one's been in the live streaming space to know how different things interact with, brand deals or communities. And so, like, I don't know. I think you look at what's going on and stuff that they're doing now, like, they're paving the way. There's no path for them to follow and be like, oh, we can just follow what, Nike streaming did. They got to figure it out. And I don't know. I'm with you. Like, my experience with Twitch has been, they've fulfilled whatever, my expectations. I hit the streaming button and it goes live. That's my expectations. And anything else, it's just gravy, I guess, on my end.
Yeah.
But I don't want to gloss over the issues that people have with Twitch. But on my end, it's like, all right, hey, look, what do I expect them to do for me? Nothing. Just let me hit the green button and then work. And for everything else from there, like, I don't know. And I think this may probably transitions to our next conversation, is like, I'm very aware that tomorrow Twitch Prime could go away. Like, yeah. I'm not like, and it would hurt the platform. It would hurt a lot of creators, but I know that could happen. And if that happens, I'm not going to be mad. It's their prerogative to do that. But I feel like on like a super high level, we're always at the mercy of whatever platform we're on, because we don't control the platform.
I think that's also, I mean, let me circle back for a second before I get carried away, but I agree with you 100%. Like, Twitch Prime literally appeared overnight. Like at the first TwitchCon, they were like, hey, everybody with an Amazon Prime subscription is going to get a free Twitch subscription, and completely changed the economics of the platform. For anybody that's not aware, like, that basically has given people the ability to go full time that otherwise would have been like massively below it. And then obviously, I mean, I remember like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, see like a huge streamer be like, hey guys, I made 10,000 subscribers. I never thought I would hit this in my entire life. Those people now have like 90,000 subscribers or 35,000 subscribers. Like, it's madness. Pardon me. And that's this mostly due to Twitch Prime, I think, as well as more people watching the website. But I think to what you said about like the website or features could go away like that, that's this part about the Mixer stuff that is like really a little bit disheartening for me, is that apparently the Mixer team, basically most of the partners found out literally today. That was like, as the tweet went out, that was like, we're ceasing operations. The news hit everybody else that was also a content creator on the platform, at least from what I saw on social media, which is just like, I can't imagine being on the website for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years and trying to build it up like that. And then literally in like a second, they're like, oh, we're done. And then also to have to see people joking about it at the same time, like, I mean, people have been punching down at Mixer for a long time to begin with, which is to some extent fair, because I mean, it's in good fun, I suppose. But then also to have the people, kind of ragging on it even after it screwed you is bad too.
Yeah, I think that's like a different way to be empathetic to the situation, is like, we think about it, okay, like on, the the non-granular level, you talk about like, okay, Ninja and Shroud, but what about the other people that were maybe just turning the corner on Mixer, maybe making it like a viable option for them to do it as a career? And like you wake up and maybe they have no way now to contact those people and be like, hey,
Yeah.
like, oh, they have a Twitter, but how many people from, Mixer did that? And that's something I think about a lot all the time, is like, because, you don't own YouTube, I don't own Twitch. I mean, that's the reality that we live in, is like something, I mean, knock on wood, you hope Twitch has such a lead and is so far ahead in front that never happens, but who knows what could happen, right? And I don't know, I tend not to think on that regard, like, oh, it's doomsday, but you also, like, I think about that all the time about, okay, what can you do to insulate yourself from that if it ever does happen? Hopefully not, but do you ever think about that?
Oh yeah, all the time. It's the whole reason, like, that was the impetus of me going back to school like 5 years ago, was just kind of, and I think it's a natural reaction as you get older. Like, I try to, people tell me all the time, reassure me, like, the business isn't going anywhere. It's been around for a long time now. And, if you build your community in the right way, you get people that really like you and stick around. But I'm still like, I don't know. I guess I got a little bit older and just had this like lightning bolt of anxiety. Like, this whole thing could just go up. It would only take one or two things going wrong for the whole thing to go up in smoke. So I got like a big motivation to go, like, try to build other skill sets as well. Yeah, I guess I had like a little bit of a quarter life crisis, but I don't know. Now I'm like, I think you're right. I echo what you say 100%. I think you shouldn't be constantly beset by anxiety that it's going to collapse. I mean, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company that's backed up by the largest company on earth. Yeah. That's not to say it's permanent, but there's like protections in place that ensure that it should be relatively stable. But at the same time, like, we don't have control over that. So I think you and I have kind of the same sentiment, which is, we build our platform on YouTube, we build our platform on Twitch, and we build our platform on Instagram and on TikTok and on Twitter. And then if something goes wrong, hey, maybe like YouTube's like, we can't do gaming stuff anymore because of some U.S. Supreme Court decision or something like that. Not that that sounds plausible, but then you're like, okay, well, at least I have like these 3 other places, and maybe there's another place that I can upload video content, and we can start like over from there, but not from zero. So I think that's the sentiment that's proactive, at least.
Yeah, and I think you bring up some good reality-based points. In particular, like, they're backed by Amazon, right? So, like, even if Twitch looks different 5 years from now, or say that Twitch shuts it down, if someone's listening to be like, oh my gosh, like, I want to do Twitch, but now Ryan and Dan are talking, it's going to go away. I think there's such a demand for it, right? Where like this demand has been built up. If Twitch went away, I feel like something else would pop up or acquire part of it. So I believe in the medium, like live streaming. I think it's the move, right? And I think especially with everything going on with COVID, like, it's just been, if you turn on ESPN, it's live streaming but on cable, right? So it's like, it's been the evolution. So I don't worry about that, but I do think that I'm always on a day-to-day operational basis, I'm always thinking, okay, hey, look, if Twitch Prime goes away, if Twitch sub gifting goes away, how does that impact the business end of things, and what can I do about it? And really what it funnels down to is there's nothing you can directly do about it except do your best every day to make great content and build a community, and then let the chips kind of fall where they may after that. But I don't know. I don't want people listening to this from Ryan and I and like operate in fear, because I don't operate like that at all. Like, there's a lot of things you can do to like help things from happening, but you have to also recognize there's things outside of your control. And then for me, I think the difference maker for me internally that I want to share with people listening is we go back to like the YouTube adpocalypse. It was like, everyone was like, I don't want to say everyone, there were 2 camps. People were like, oh, I'm getting off YouTube. This is terrible. How can I make money? Versus me, I was like, all right, look, that changed. But what if you just keep going at it? Do I think this is like a trend that will correct itself? Yeah. So I don't know. I think at the end of the day, to just make it simple, Forehead, is just keep working at what you can control and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, I agreed 100%.
So I don't know if you want to so that was pretty big news.
Yeah.
there was some
I
other
mean, that's huge news, and there was other huge news.
yeah, do you want to at least hit the bullet points of that?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, I spend too much time on social media, so I think I have a good methodology or an understanding of how this came to pass. On Friday, some creators, some women creators, came out with allegations of abuse that were corroborated by receipts against multiple Twitch streamers, and this seemed to happen on Friday night and then on Saturday and Sunday. That made a lot of people more comfortable to share the stories that they have as well. So it felt like there were dozens or hundreds probably of stories about it. It was like it was a nightmare social media weekend. It's like every time, not to make light of it, but every time you like refreshed on Twitter, you were like, oh, another person that I have talked to in the past is apparently kind of a scumbag or like a huge scumbag in some of the circumstances. So basically, that was it. It was kind of like Twitches and really the gaming industry in general had like a big Me Too sort of movement this weekend, and multiple streamers made apologies for it, or confessions, or rebuttals, or like streamed responses to the allegations and stuff like that. It was just a very I mean, I don't know about you. I was miserable basically almost all of yesterday over this stuff. Not just seeing like there's like multiple waves of just badness associated with it. It was like first like, oh, people I follow have engaged in this stuff. Then it was like the second one was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is so widespread that it seems like every woman in the industry has like a story about this, about being either literally abused or harassed or worse, at least creeped out. And then the third wave, which is like where I was at last night and today, is like, where do we as creators have like influence or some kind of obligation or responsibility to change things within our own community and hopefully start to change the culture of stuff on the platform so that this doesn't happen as much in the future. So like there was from a business standpoint, there was tons of fallout, which I know you're going to speak about as well. And I heard you already spoke about it this morning on your own podcast, but also on like on a personal level, just like a really bad and surprising weekend.
Yeah, like I pretty much I unplugged for the weekend. It's Father's Day weekend, and like when I went online, I had this DM from the management company. I'm like, what is this? Then I looked in our back channel, and it was just like, it took me a second to be like, what is all this? And then it's like 5:30 on Sunday. I'm reading this stuff, and I'm like, honestly, what I thought of, I'm like, man, and I don't speak eloquently on this stuff, and I don't ever talk about it because I don't know, but it's like, man, what it's like to be like a woman on the platform, dealing with Twitch chat, like stereotypically, and then it's like on the back end of things, like they're dealing with that too, and I don't know, it's a tough deal, man. Like, my heart goes out because it's like, you have nieces, you have daughters, you have cousins. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if I was like hopeful that because like, I feel like gaming started out, at least how, I grew up with gaming, it was kind of like nerdy, and you like were, you could only bring, like for me growing up, I'd bring up gaming, and like, you knew if someone was a gamer and you guys were kind of just like, just not like everyone else. Like it wasn't like part of like the mainstream, or not to, but it just like, you're like for example, I'll tell a story. I knew this kid in middle school, super quiet, like definitely got picked on, but we both played like these AOL games together. So that was kind of like our way to, like connect, where you didn't really deal with that kind of stuff, but it just, I don't know, man. I was just like kind of, I don't want to say I was shocked, but it's just hard to like take in, man. It's like, you think the space is a little different, and it's not, which is, I guess maybe eye-opening, and I think it's good that it happened. So now, like you said, what is our role in this? And I kind of look at it like on a broad level, like how do I change things in the world? For me, it starts in the home with my kids. Like how I am around them, that's how they're going to be. So I'm hyper conscious of doing everything the right way. And I think to take it to Twitch is like how we act, how we react to things, how we talk about things. Like that's how we can impact things, on our community level. Like if we send a tweet out, I think it's good, and I think it shows support, but like we can really affect the people in our community on how we address things. And
Yeah.
That's my thoughts on it. And it's like I started reading some of them. I'm like, man, this is terrible. And it's like kind of like you said, it affects you, and it's like you don't want to read anymore. But at the same time, it's like, man, everyone just went through some stuff, and it's just sad, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still like, I'm at a loss for like what you say beyond support. And like, I mean, Malv and I talked about it a lot today, actually, because we were like, what can we do? So I mean, in terms of like actionable stuff, literally today I added like 5 mods that Malf recommended, and then I talked to one-on-one, and I was like, hey, just so you know, like, this job sucks, but like if you want to take it, we could really use it in the community. And it's less like, oh, we want to make chat like, part of it admittedly is we want to make chat nice for the people that are in the call or that are on the stream, and like that's been long overdue, and we've talked about it before. But another part of it is like, I think I have to take ownership of the fact that I didn't ask for a large audience, but simultaneously, like, we have a community, and there's like social networks attached to that community. The people from that from our chat go to the Reddit. So we want to make sure that like if there's misconduct on Reddit, that there's people that can be talked to in order to sort that out. They go to Discords, and part of the reason I've never had an official Discord is because I kind of had the recognizance that if you have that, you're responsible to some extent for the behavior that happens in that Discord. But even simultaneously, I think that that's sort of a like a hand waving way of just being like, this is not my problem, because those people migrate to like other Discords or communities off of that, and abuse can also happen over there. So really, the addition of the mods is half to make chat a more hospitable place. Like we don't. Part of the problem, I honestly think, is, and it's not unique to Twitch, but I'm going to call it Twitch culture, which is like it's inhospitable to women to a huge extent. If women streamers have it harder than male streamers, I think, because not only do they have an uphill battle to get viewership, if they get viewership, there are bad actors that call them out for maybe they say exploiting their looks to get viewership, which is like an ill-gotten gain in their mind or something like that. But then also on top of that, even if people are not constantly calling women thoughts in chat just because they're on the screen or whatever, or commenting on their appearance because they're on the screen, you also have like the people that will maybe pretend to be nice, and then 6 months later, it turns out they have like ulterior motives. So it's like, it really, I don't know what you can do to completely stop it, but I definitely thought this was like a good first step to at least have more trusted people that someone in chat can go to and be like, hey, this person was being a creep to me, or even like a step beyond that, so that we can kind of notice that stuff within the community. Instead of my attitude in the past was maybe more like, like I am responsible for what happens in chat, but what the people in chat do to each other outside of chat is not my responsibility. I can't control what they do, but we can at least hold them accountable, in the avenues that I do have some control over, for the stuff that happens related to the community outside of the chat itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's to look at what you did on Reddit as like a case study. Like that used to be a free for all. Like your main Reddit used to be a free for all, and then maybe like a year ago, you're like, hey, no meta post, dunk, all these things. And for the most part, now it's like a really pleasant place to go to on Reddit. There's no like, you're not going to click on a thread and be like, oh, this person's going to get roasted. It's like, and if something like that does happen, it gets shut down pretty fast. And so I think for you to take that same I guess, formula and bring it to Twitch chat, like I'll be surprised if it's not successful, you know. And just speaking on my end, like on like our community, like it's, you know, I'm gonna champion our community all the time because I think it's the best on Twitch. Like people come in like from Tarkov and be like, this is our first time here, like wow, everyone's so friendly. And to me, like, you know, and it's like Tarkov is a hardcore game, and you know, when you're gonna deal with all kinds of different people. But to me, it's fully credit to the mods. You know, like, you know, and I think the best part about mods is they come from great examples of the community, right? Like when I first started streaming, I'm like, I don't know who's gonna mod, like, but you just see like who's exhibiting a behavior that you want, and then all of a sudden, when you have like these great mods that just like they get it, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing is just if you have people who are mods that are a part of the community that get it, you know, it's amazing because all of a sudden it's like, yeah, like the viewers respect you as a streamer, but there's another level of respect towards the moderators. And it's just, and to me, like the biggest thing I learned, and I feel like everyone knows it, and I don't know whether you'll employ this or not, but like I always say, if someone comes in and chirps at a moderator, it's like you're chirping at me. Like they're an extension of me, and I put a lot of trust in them. So like, there's like no tolerance for mod harassment because it's like they're going at the people that are doing essentially the worst part of the Twitch experience. Like they're having to be the bad guy and get rid of people. So I'm like super defensive of that, and I think that helps like curb. You know, I know moderators deal with all kinds of stuff, but at the same time, like they've just on my end, like it's what made the whole community, in my opinion, is just having those great moderators. And I'm not saying it's necessarily easy to find great moderators, but in your own community, like I'm sure there's people in your head right now, like or in when you do your show today, like these people are genuinely like what I would envision the community to be, you know. And so it's just, but I'm with you. I think there is a responsibility, right? If you let something slide in your chat, it's like kind of like you're teaching, right? Like one of your, and not to say like viewers are students, but like we're former teachers. If a student gets away with something once, then guess what? The kid next to him is going to try it too and see the same thing. So I don't know, but I do think like I'm very hopeful in terms of the fact of like I think we can have a extremely large hand in I don't want to say controlling, but influencing the way our communities are. And if something's unacceptable, you know, it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I echo that like 1-to-1, for sure. And I mean, like I guess what I'm trying to avoid is conflate, because I think there's two different things happening. Like there's the abuse from the streamers, which is obviously like the linchpin issue, but then it's like what can we do ourselves? And I think that there is a culture, to be honest, of like looking down on women on Twitch, casual misogyny and stuff like that happens in chat all the time. And our chats are like pretty good relative to, not to make excuses for us, but pretty good or even great to superb compared to a lot of streamers on chat, or on Twitch, I should say. So I mean, there's two different issues. So the issue of like how to change the culture to make it better is on us for sure. Even though, you know, we're not part of the proximate problem to begin with, I think we can help to be examples, not just for our chat, but also to other streamers of like how you should treat everybody, but like including your colleagues. And then the second thing is I agree that it's kind of like it was a terrible weekend, but on the other hand, it's kind of like not even fair to say that, because this stuff happened like 5 years ago. People have already been dealing with like the emotional fallout from it. It's the only reason it feels terrible is because all of it's coming out at once and we had no idea about it, or at least most people had no idea about it. So in a way, it's like, it's shocking to us. I don't want to say because we've put our head in the sand, but just because we were talking about it in the back channel, like we don't have a huge network of streamers that we talk to. So hearing this stuff about people that I'm aware of, but not really have interacted with, I'm like, man, I had no idea this kind of stuff goes down. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that it's out there and people are speaking out and they feel more comfortable doing so, especially when they're talking about people that are, you know, 10 times their size, is, I think it's a positive thing, although it's painful to happen in the first place.
Yeah. I just, you know, I always try to find like, good in everything going on. And, I know there's a lot of bad with, and just a lot of sadness and stuff. But I think this hopefully sets a hard line that this kind of stuff stops, and if there's any like sparks of it happening, I could see a lot more people now like snuffing that out or going out of their way to snuff that stuff out. And I think that's at the end of the day, I think just if we take care of each other and keep an eye out and just listen. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like we have the ability as individuals to help each other, and and sometimes it takes a little courage. And I'm not saying people didn't have that to like stop things from happening, but I just think everyone's way more aware of it now, and I think that's a great thing. And sad that all this had to happen for that to be aware, but I hope it starts the process of this stuff ending. Especially in our world. It's just so I don't know. So to not to pivot, but to kind of bring this thing back internally, I talked a little bit about my podcast, but long story short, I signed with this group, this agency. I signed with them in December and January. And like I did my homework. Like I'm not just gonna sign with anyone, and did a lot of homework. Got a bunch of people said, yeah, this is good. I'd go with it. Da da da. And then I get this, find out everything going on. I don't know what we can say. I don't know how to say it. Can you say it in a way? Because I feel like you can say it in a way that's objective and will not get us in trouble for
Sure.
alluding legally anything.
Yeah, I mean, there were allegations from a woman who works in the industry against the ex CEO of OPG. So there were allegations of, let's call it, coercion.
Okay, so this comes right away. This comes out. I'm like, like number one, this is terrible, and then number two, like I'd be like internally, it's bad, right? So number one, it's terrible for everyone, but on the inside, it's like we've been with them for 3, 4, 5 months. This past week did our first sponsored stream, went over well. Like I passed on a lot of deals, but it's like from the business side of thing, it was like great. Like their deals were coming to the table. It's like no, and we did our first one. Went over great. And it's like, okay, like that moved the needle so much to going full time. And then Sunday I get the message. I'm like, well, that's out the window. But to me, it's like we always talk about all the time, short term versus long term. It's a no brainer, right? Like when I saw it, I'm like, all right, done. It'll set things back. But I guess what it boils down to is like doing the right thing is always the right thing. There is no like, oh, let's see what happens and see how this thing shakes out. It's like, all right, it doesn't align with the community and what we do here. So that, that's that. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's one, I think the thing to think about too is like one thing, and there's just affects so many people, whether you were affected by reading about it, affected about it by you had a story, or affected financially. There's so much that comes from it. But that's, I mean, and I'm getting that like Sunday night on Father's Day. And I told you guys, I'm like, man, I don't want like, it's Father's Day. I don't want to deal with this trash, but part of the business is if there's a problem, you deal with it.
And there's nothing like, everybody is aware of this, but I'll reiterate it to begin with. It's not like you could have known about this in advance of signing with them, for sure. Really, all you can do is choose what you're doing after it comes out. So I think that you acted with integrity after it came out, which was the only opportunity that you had to do it in the first place. So I really feel for the streamers that are involved with it, because it could easily happen to any company that you work with. Any company that I do like a sponsorship with, the CEO of that company could tweet something terrible like while you're in the middle of your sponsored stream. There's no way to vet that stuff in advance. So I think all you can do, and it's such a reputation focused business. All you can do is act with integrity to preserve it. Like once it's happened.
Yeah.
At that point, and especially like, I mean, this is once people start leaving, you can't stay, right?
No,
like,
well, I mean,
when you see 30 people, for lack of a better word, they put their skin in the game, and they're like, I'm gonna take the hit on this to dissociate with a company whose values I don't agree with based on what happened this weekend. You can't. There's so little chance of you being like, I'm gonna stick around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a ton of people I feel for, but on like the back end business side, like dealing with the company and like there's so many different people I interacted with the company, like they're great. Like it was great to work with them, and it's like
dude.
the whole thing's going down, which so you have people losing their jobs, and then on the other side, like I was looking at like people within the like other streamers that I don't know. I'm like I saw some people tweeting saying like, what do I do? Like X, a vast majority of my income comes through them. And I'm like, man, like you feel for those people. I'm fortunate where like it was the inverse, right? Like there's so much community support where like, all right, hey, this was like another starting to grow revenue. But like imagine, I'm trying to empathize for the streamers, like, look, both of their legs of their bar stool just got cut out. And now what do they do? And so it's just,
and that's, I mean, You're right. The collateral damage is nuts. Like with that particular company, they organized Champions of Fire 1. And basically, like I got invited to Champions of Fire 1 because my representation had like a connection to the company to begin with. So like I know that they've created opportunities even for me within the space, even though I wasn't officially represented by them. So like I know that there's I have nothing but, I mean, of course, you never know what goes on behind closed doors, but I have nothing but respect for the people that I worked with throughout that weekend. And it just sucks that, because of one incident like this, that many people are also going to be affected. But I mean, that's the kind of, honestly, the responsibility does not fall on the accuser in that situation. It falls on the person to begin with, whose misconduct is in question.
Yeah. And it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, it doesn't involve you, but it involves you, like on a human level, it involves you, and you feel terrible for the whole situation. And then like you have no association to that, but it's still like, I feel like it's like this huge ripple effect on everything. And it's just, I don't know.
Honestly, even just talking about it now has helped me puzzle it out a little bit more. Like, because it's a really complicated thing to work with, especially when you're not directly involved in it. I mean, in the past, I've shied away from making statements about issues like this. And then, like a month ago, when the protest started for Black Lives Matter, I really felt like kind of gross for not making a statement, to be honest. And I think that's basically what happened this weekend as well. So I think it's part of recognizing that, because we're in a good position in the industry, like part of the responsibility that we have is to not turn a blind eye and be like, hey guys, we're going live, and instead be like, we're seeing this and we're going to do what we can to make it, to stop what we can stop and be a good influence in the community, and not instead just be like, I'm ignoring it, I'm not talking about it on social media, which is easy to make that excuse. It's like, oh, it doesn't concern me, and it's easy to also resent people that are like, how do you feel about this? But I think that, the older I get, and honestly, like the more secure I feel with the community, the more I'm like, it feels good to make a statement about the important stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and me, I don't talk about issues and stuff like that often, but what I, to break the fourth wall, what I think about a lot is kind of, we talk about that vlog that you did, but it's like sometimes you question, all right, hey, what exactly am I doing? What impact do I have? Like, what is a tweet from you or a tweet from me? What is that? Does it change anything? And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I underplay it or downplay it, but it's like, hey, what is my role in this and how do I impact things to change? And I don't know. Like I go back and forth, but, for me, like I always look at, all right, what can I physically do to change, or what can I physically do to help things to get better? And for me, it starts in the home, but I don't know. How you talked about in the vlog, it's like you question like what you do and the value of it. And I don't know, sometimes I'm sure I underplay it, but I don't know. I that's where I struggle with, like, what does a tweet from you or me mean? I don't know. And I don't know if we'll ever know. And I don't know how you balance that in your head. Like, do you think about that?
Yeah, but I think this is one where I don't have like an unequivocal statement. It's something that probably like 6 years ago, I just wouldn't have touched. And I can tell you what my reasoning would have been is like, as long as it doesn't concern me, I'm an entertainer. I don't consider it my responsibility to weigh in on this stuff. Even stuff that was related to the gaming industry at the time. But now I think that's kind of I think it's kind of a cop out attitude, especially like, I mean, some of this stuff this year has been, I wouldn't have felt right not talking about it for sure. This one in particular, though, I'm like, it's about our industry. I mean, you have to. It's tough, and I understand where people come from when they say like, I wasn't there, so like I don't know what happened. But at the same time, when there's stuff like this that apparently is rampant within the industry, to not make a statement, I wouldn't say that it says something about the person staying quiet, but I would say that I feel like it's unprincipled for sure. If stuff like this happens in the comic industry or in the movie industry or in the Long Island school district or something like that, that's something where I would be like, I literally have like no expertise. Like I'm shocked that it's going on, and at the same time I'm not shocked. But when it's happening like in your own house, I think you have a responsibility to at least be like, this is, even if I wasn't involved in it, this sucks, and we're gonna like, just so you know, in case you're reading other people's tweets and you're like, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this, but if you're like, man, NL, I'm glad that he doesn't weigh in on this stuff because, these women are getting away with too much. Like, I want to make sure that that's not where I stand.
Yeah. No, and that's, I think you bring up an interesting thing. And the thing I feel like I've worked on and developed over the past like 7-8 years is not judging, right? If you tweet something about it and share your opinion, awesome. If you don't, like for me, it's like, I don't know what the individuals are going through. Maybe they don't know how to eloquently put it. But in terms of what you say about like with this Twitch stuff, it's like you're talking about like global issues versus like what's going on in your backyard. And, I feel like sometimes like I feel like on like global or major stuff, I'm like, I'm not qualified to talk about, like, I don't know. But like with this, it's like, you like, I could see myself at like when we go to like I think about like when we go to like a PAX party or something, I'm like, this probably happened there and we had no idea. But now like whenever that stuff comes back again, if we find ourselves in that spot, like I'm definitely gonna be looking, or like just be like, I don't know.
And this is more on the operations side as well, but I think if you're a company that's involved in this space, from reading all these accounts, it probably is a good time to have a talk about like the way that you run events and stuff like this. Maybe, and it's not just, it's the culture, I think, of like every industry, or at least a lot of industries. But we talked about it behind the scenes for a long time, that like the vibe of the Twitch parties was not really for us most of the time. It was like loud and alcohol soaked. And I actually do think that over time they got a lot better about opening up like alternative spaces for people that weren't really into that. But like so much of this stuff appeared to happen at events where it was like, it was a convention and like we went to this party and everybody was hammered to an irresponsible degree that I wouldn't say it gives the organizers responsibility for what happened, but it just, we have awareness now that it creates a situation where that kind of thing is a little bit more ripe, I guess.
Yeah, and that's like, I was just trying to, like, when I saw this, everything come out, I was trying to catalog, all right, hey, like when we go to cons, like what do we do? Like in the past, what have we done? And then, what I always look at like actions, right? So, I try not to, when it comes to important stuff, it's trying not to me, it's not just like, for me, it doesn't matter what I say, it's about how I act on it, right? So, you can do something or you put your money up. Like I could have put out a statement saying like, hey, I support, the women and believe them, but if I'm with OPG, if I stay with them, it's like, right. To me, it's like the way I try to approach things, and this for people that may question, say, hey Dan, why don't you say stuff more? To me, it's like, look at what I'm doing and look at the actions I take, and then if I say something, then it's really like not out of hand, but like I'm really pushed where I'm like, man, like enough's enough. I don't know. It's just, I mean, this is like the first podcast we've done. We're not like, hey, what's going on? Like, how are the numbers? How,
TikTok
yeah,
great,
it's like, man, like, but I think it's important for us, from time, like when stuff like this happens, to weigh in, because it's not like this is not on our normal docket of information we talk about. I know it hasn't been a normal weekend.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, it's, you said it basically. It's I would love to be talking about other stuff that went on this week on like a more operational level, like what worked on YouTube, on Twitch, and what didn't. But like it's just not appropriate this week, quite frankly, to ignore that stuff. And in a way, like that's, I'm resentful for that as well. I mean, you and I have talked about it before in the past, not to make light of the situation, but like we're in a good spot, and doing this job is a huge privilege. At least it's the way most people consider it. And I'm like, you know, stop messing it up for everybody.
yeah.
Not just for yourselves. I'm not saying like from a self-interested perspective, stop being a creep, or you're going to get canceled, but also like, there's this website and this industry in general, is a great space for it. It could be like a win-win space for everybody if you just didn't creep it up, basically, or worse. Like I just but even then, I do want to say that me being resentful of that, and to some extent resenting the fact that we have to talk about it, is also coming from a position of like being super sheltered and fortunate to have not had to actually be in the position that these accusers were in. So I think that it's a very petty thing for me to say, is that I resent being forced to make, well, not forced, but I resent feeling compelled to make a statement, but not because of the fact that it's become an issue, but because of the fact that it happened in the first place.
Yeah, so like let me ask you this as we kind of wrap things. Like, so you made a move to bolster up mods and give a direction. Do you think there's anything else that like we can do as, I guess, granular level, like on Twitch, to do our part to stop this?
I think recognizing that our demographics are maybe a little bit older, but at the same time, it comes back to something that I think I said, and this is all been a learning experience for me. I've been doing this forever. I talked about it like in the back channel earlier today. Like when I got the mods, I'm gonna go off for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
even though I know we need to transition here at
Go.
some point. But like when I got the mods today, I told them like the number one thing that I want to watch out for, like if people are rude to me, I can always get it. First off, I can take it, but I can also alt tab and just yeet the comment myself. But the important thing is, the number one thing in my chat that's a sore spot for me right now is we could do a better job of protecting the people on the call that don't feel comfortable going into my chat and protecting themselves. So if we're having like an argument and someone says like, Rob is wrong, that's fine. If someone says like Rob is stupid, then just time them out. Like, and we've not done a good job historically of having the culture that made it unacceptable for people to say that, and acceptable for people to be punished for it. And I apologize to the guys in the back channel for it, because it wasn't like it was ever a conscious decision to let that kind of stuff slide. But when you've been doing this for a long time, you're building like your Jenga tower from where you started it, So I started in like 2013 or 2014. I was like, I'm just happy people are here. And to be honest, it's not like, oh, I don't want to ban toxic people. Like I'll ban people who are being like aggressively toxic, but simultaneously, like I also don't want to give people a reason to leave, because I don't know, maybe like one bad mod decision and this whole thing starts to topple over. And I think that's a very like ignorant attitude, honestly. And as we've gotten further and further along and older and realized like, hey, how would I want to be treated? Like if I was in the call with these people, we've started to build like a scaffolding to hopefully make that to make the community better and be less accepting of like the toxic edgelord stuff that at some point was maybe like a little bit more, I don't want to say acceptable, but a little bit more accepted, at least. So I think that for me to wrap that part up has been, the journey of realizing that even if on an intellectual level, I think of myself as like an entertainer who should not be considered an influence, I think that's like a BS attitude. And if you have an audience of dozens or hundreds or thousands of people and they consume hours and hours of your content every single day, you can't help but influence them. So for me, step one, which is a step we constantly circle back to, is, recognize that we are an influence whether we want to be or not. So make sure that we're an influence in the right way possible, and change the culture in such a way that, we're making it less acceptable. Like the stuff that is acceptable in other streamers' chats that have the same amount of viewers, a lot of that won't be acceptable in our chat. And even if it's a joke, the joke contributes to an environment that clearly makes things inhospitable for other people. So I think that's step one, and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I can just speak of, having a really positive experience when I come on your show, and I feel like I'm pretty lucky. It's like when I come on, it's like all like laughs and giggles, and like I really haven't had to deal with like kind of the backlash that other people. But I think like when you were saying that, I'm like, man, what if every time I came on your show was like the inverse? So thank you, NLSS people that tune in for being so nice to me. But like, I mean, like that would be horrible, like regardless of like how funny or how great we got along or how fun the show is, like you still got to deal with like a wave of people. Not that happens like all the time in your chat, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's like how could it not affect you?
Yeah, I mean, to be quite frank, like my attitude, and this is tangential to the original issue that got us here, but I think it's related at least. In like 2014, if someone was like, hey, check out this like nonsense that somebody wrote about me in chat or on the subreddit, my attitude was probably a little bit more like, yeah, it sucks, but we all get it, and don't let it get to you. It's probably some 12-year-old kid like living in his mom's basement or something like that. Like just let it roll off your back, right? And then, over the years got a little bit better. And, a couple of years ago, more like, hey, like that's acceptable. We're going to punish this person and we're going to make sure that stuff doesn't happen again. But simultaneously, still almost more like, I understand if you don't want to be on the show today. Like if you're having a bad day, you don't have to be on the show today, and that's fine. Like whenever you feel better about it, you can come back on. And then I think this year is like a tripling down of like, hey, we're gonna like, and it should have been like this before, but we're gonna do a better job of like being the shield that makes you, feel good about being on the show. And if the first, Team Unity tomorrow, if we have to ban 500 people because they can't be, civil to Apollo or alternatively keep their mouth shut, then so be it. It is what it is.
Yeah, no, and I want to wrap the podcast on how like on a good note, not like I think this individually on a granular level, this has forced us both to be like, okay, look, like what can we do better and more, which I think is great. And I think a lot of people are on the platform, and hopefully even people that are watching now or live in Twitch, like, hey, how do I contribute or help to the problem? Because I feel like you do one or the other. Like you either help or you contribute. You don't like not do anything. So I think that's a positive. And I think, with all the pain and everything coming out from all the stories, I think it's a good thing because like you're gonna have way more people looking out for it. You're gonna hopefully put a lot of people on blast that will change or at least not do it anymore. And then I just think it bringing it to the forefront, I think, regardless of how painful it is, I think is a good thing, because that's when stuff can start to change. And I'm hopeful, because I think you and I both love what we do. We love the communities, we love the industry, we love everything about what we get to do. Like I'm with you. I feel like it's on us to make the bright parts of it shine through and also like affect other people. And I think one of the things I think I definitely downplay, but I think maybe sometimes you'll get a younger viewer in, and that may be a chance to like change something like big time down the road for that person. Some people may come in and say something, haha, that's funny. And whether it's a community or mods, it could be someone young or old say, no, it's not. Maybe that's the first time that they're being told that, or even being presented with the idea like, you don't say that. And so I don't know. But I think it's like anything else. It's like one day at a time, one individual at a time, one band person at a time, and one time out at a time. And I think that will start to help and, do what we can do, as broadcasters. Do you have anything else you want to add to the?
No, I mean, I honestly, I think this is something. I think we did a good job of talking about it. I didn't know how it was going to be going in, and it's a, as complicated of an issue as it is for us. Obviously, like it's just a drop in the bucket compared to people that have actually experienced it. But I feel like I said my piece for sure, and but I'm also sure that it'll develop over time. Like the way I feel about it today is a little different than the way I felt about it yesterday. The way I felt about it at Friday was I was like, man, screw that guy. And then, the way I felt about it on Sunday is I was like, whoa, that's like 50 people. That's like, so it's I mean, it's still it's a developing story.
Yeah, and it's something that I think, I mean, we're gonna do what we can and just be aware of it, and I'd probably talk about it more as things progress, and hopefully we can talk about some positive things about things that are maybe instituted or put in place to help do that. But we do have a little bit special of a treat to kind of pivot here as we're wrapping up. I mean, I don't know how we segue out of that.
It's a hard segue.
Yeah,
it's a hard segue.
But as we wrap up episode 19, we want to thank you guys so much for listening, and please share your thoughts with us regarding this episode. Tweet us using the hashtag #CheckTheWire, because it'll be interesting to read your thoughts. And it's always like a two-sided conversation. But we are going to follow